Hello, Oracles. We've got some news that came out that VW, Volkswagen, is going to be investing up to $5 billion in Rivian. Now, this is something, if you guys have been following me for a while, I had discussed this 2 years ago about how we're going to get to a point in 2024 or 2025 when we've got these big legacy automotive makers that are either going to be buying out or partnering with the EV startups because the EV startups were going to be struggling to get profitable and compete with Tesla. Meanwhile, the ICE manufacturers are going to have the same problem, but they're going to still have their ICE vehicles to go off of. They're somehow going to need to transition over. And the easiest way for them to do it is by partnering up or buying out the startup companies. So, this is the beginning of this, in my opinion. So, again, we're seeing VW investing up to $5 billion in Rivian. And we'll get into the details in the article in a minute, discussing what the whole program is behind all of this. But again, this is what we are going to be seeing happening over the next 5 years or so. Now, I was hanging out with my buddy the other day. Again, I get to ride around in his performance Model 3, and we were discussing how Ford and Jim Farley are very smart. He understands that Tesla is leading the way. He's not going to be arrogant like Mary Barra is over at GM. He is going to come out and say, hey, Tesla's leading the way. They have a skunk team over in Palo Alto, California, that's kind of putting together a group of old Tesla employees to kind of work on a project for EVs just for Ford. That's what they are currently working on. And Jim Farley understands this. They were the first ones who jumped on to adopt the EV charging stations. They are most likely the ones that I have a feeling Tesla and Elon have been talking about how they have somebody, a large manufacturer, who's on board for FSD. This may very well end up being Ford. I don't know for sure. Maybe you guys know for sure, and you can let us know in the comments below. But this is how Ford is operating, and they're kind of partnering with Tesla in a way to get themselves going forward. They're not stupid. They know what they need to do. They know they can't do it all themselves, and they're reaching out. Now we're seeing VW do that with Rivian. And so, in an article from Yahoo Finance, German automaker Volkswagen Group will invest up to $5 billion in U.S. electric vehicle maker Rivian as part of a new, equally controlled joint venture to share EV architecture and software, the company said on Tuesday. Shares of Rivian surged about 50% in extended trade after the announcement, potentially supercharging the company's market value by nearly $6 billion if gains hold Wednesday. Now, in my opinion, this is going to be one of the only ways that Rivian was going to survive all of this. So I don't know if any of you are invested in Rivian. Let me know if you are. I am not. It was just one of those companies that, there were too many chances for me. Something like this had to happen in order for them to really survive and get through all of this. And now here we are, and they're actually getting through. So good for them in doing this. But again, let me know if any of you guys are shareholders in the comments. The auto industry faces a crucial time as EV startups grapple with a slowdown in demand amid high interest rates and dwindling cash, while traditional automakers have struggled to build battery-powered vehicles and advanced software. Again, this is exactly what we discussed was going to happen. Volkswagen will initially invest $1 billion in Rivian and a further $4 billion later, the companies said. The investment will provide Rivian the funding necessary to develop its less expensive and smaller R2 SUVs that are set to roll out in 2026 and its planned R3 crossovers, CEO RJ Scaringe told Reuters. It will also help Rivian, known for its flagship R1S SUVs and R1T pickups, turn cash flow positive. The company will license its existing intellectual property rights to the JV. Quote, any cash infusion like that is huge. Getting the support of Volkswagen Group certainly really strengthens their story toward Europe and toward Asia eventually, said Vitaly Golom, managing partner at Mavka Capital in San Francisco and investor in Rivian. For Volkswagen, analysts and investors see this as a move to solve the company's struggles in software. VW's software division, Carrier, set up under former VW Group CEO Herbert Diess, has exceeded its budget and failed to meet goals. This contributed to Diess's exit in September 2022. Volkswagen said earlier this year it was sticking with plans to launch 25 EV models in North America across its group brands by 2030, even as it acknowledged slowing growth in the segment. So going back to something we talked about previously, how Tesla has very few models and they just wanted to come out with one model that would dominate every segment of the auto market, VW, and we've seen it from GM as well, wanting to come out with so many models similar to what they have with ICE vehicles. It's one of those mentalities of, we're going to do it this way because that's the way we've always done it. It's not always the best way. So I don't know if that's going to be a wise move, but I do think that partnering up with Rivian is going to at least give them a chance. Perhaps they're going to recognize over the next few years that diving into that many models may not be worth it. I mean, how do you hit economies of scale with that many models? Now, as GM has it, they've got their platform that they could put several models on. So perhaps that's going to help if they're going to have one solid platform that maybe 5 or 6 different models can fit on top of, sort of like, a Matchbox car or something. You just pop that right on top. If that's the case and they have that skateboard set up, perhaps that's going to help. Whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know. But again, this partnership is exactly what we had talked about is the only way that legacy auto and EV startups are going to survive. Now, in Tesla specific news, the stock is up today on news that they had very good insurance numbers coming out of China of about 17,500. So these numbers are very good. And next week on July 2nd, typically is when we get the numbers. We will be getting Q2 delivery and production numbers. Now, I apologize with everything I have been going on. I haven't had a chance to actually dive in and come up with my own calculations for all of this stuff. There's so many other people who do a great job of it, like Troy Tesla, and many others out there. So for me to go out there and spend extra time that I didn't have to go and do this, I apologize, just did not make sense for me at the time. Maybe in the future I'll get back to it, but as of right now, they are looking at a little bit of a growth. But I will try to get a video out later this week with the estimates that we have from all the different analysts and Troy Tesla and other people in the community as well, so we can see what we could potentially be expecting for Q2 numbers for production and deliveries. And now, when it comes to what I think is going to happen with Tesla stock based upon the VW and Rivian news, I don't think it's going to have any effect on it whatsoever. Near term, medium term, or long term. I don't think it's going to matter at all. Tesla's still marching along the way it has been going. And again, as Elon said, the real focus is to transition the entire world over to renewable energy, and they can't do it themselves. So if they're going to have big partners like Volkswagen teaming up with Rivian to be able to push this transition over, that's actually going to be a welcome thing. The more manufacturers who put out quality EVs, the better it's going to be for Tesla in the long run, because there are so many people who are still doubting on and hating Tesla for whatever silly reasons. I got into a battle with somebody on Facebook the other day just because of the fact that they had old, internet knowledge. And I'm like, you guys don't have true facts that are going on with what you're talking about. So hopefully when we get more of this EV revolution moving by more manufacturers putting them out, we will end up seeing that transition happen and a lot less of that negativity coming out for EVs in general. And of course, any negativity that comes out towards EVs typically hits Tesla harder because Tesla is the leader when it comes to EVs here in North America. Over in China, it's a little bit different because they have a lot of big manufacturers over there as well. But here in the US, that hits really hard. So as we make this transition, I think it's actually going to be a good thing for Tesla in the long run, having these two partner up. So again, I think the next 2 years or so could be kind of a little turbulent time, just because with the possible recession that I think we're going to be getting going on. We will have interest rates coming down, but if our interest rates are coming down because we're getting into a recession, could still be some tough times for Tesla. Again, I think that's just strictly medium term stuff that's going to be going on. But I think that's actually going to be very good for them in the long run, because it's going to kind of thin out the herd when it comes to a lot of these other manufacturers. And it's going to force that hand of either a partnership or a buyout of these startups when it comes to these ICE manufacturers. So again, I think it's going to be excellent for Tesla to have all of this going on with Rivian and Volkswagen. And I hope that we have other manufacturers as well doing this. But we'll see how this whole plays out. Again, we're obviously seeing a little bump in Rivian stock price right now. We'll see if that continues. Otherwise, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on all of this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all of your support. Have a great one.